Hello. Welcome back. I rabbit holed a bit based off of a dream. And I think I'm onto something, but at the same time, I might not be. Call me out if you want in the comments. So, I had this dream. I think I said it yesterday, but whatever. We're going to recap that dream, and then we're going to dive into it with my meditative thoughts. Psychosis is a hard red flag to spot. That is something I said in my dream in accordance to something my partner and my best friend were talking about. They were like conversing, and me and our other friend were just kind of like behind them listening, and whatever they said spawned psychosis. And like this though, I was like, yeah, but psychosis is a hard red flag to spot. And it started me on this rabbit hole because I think the majority of people are like suffering from this. Okay, let me recap. Or not recap, reframe. So possible symptoms of psychosis when utilized in the mental health field, you know, it's delusions, hallucinations, talking incoherently, and agitation. The person with the condition usually isn't aware of his or her behavior. Is that not the majority of people though? And that hallucinations are just their created reality, their narrative that they decided to force upon others? That's the delusional part of it. So, of course, it's not the same, but this idea is growing something in my brain about how people are hallucinating the truth of what is actually important, what matters, I guess. Like, if you're still having your emotional, like, if you're still going through emotional processing at people, like, yes, you got a little delusion going on. You're talking a little incoherently. Like, for example, you don't have to say anything to anyone ever. You could just take notes and change course of action, right? Nobody's owed your explanation about anything. And that's emotional intelligence, is recognizing the emotion that comes on, sitting with it and go, oh, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do next time about it. Now, the thing is, though, I believe the majority of people have solar plexus blockages, which is our confidence, our willpower, our self-esteem, how we shine to the world, our self-discipline. And when you lack those things, you create a reality that is not set in truth. It is set based off of your own insecurities. And then enter talking incoherently and agitation. Like, I don't understand what you're saying right now. You're talking a lot, but I don't understand why all these words, what do they mean to you? Or what do they mean in general for, like, the outcome of anything? And I'm not sure. And then the agitation. Of course you'd be agitated. That's literally the first sign of a blocked solar plexus chakra or a drained solar plexus chakra is agitation, passive aggressiveness, competitiveness, along those lines. Behavioral experience of psychosis: disorganized behavior, aggression, agitation, hostility, hyperactivity, hypervigilance, nonsense, word repetition, repetitive motions, restlessness, self-harm, social isolation, lack of restraint, or persistent repetition of words or actions. Literally, the solar plexus. This is, I'm like getting blown away. Like, confusion, anger, anxiety, apathy, detached from self. All right, so that's enough of that. That's enough explanation of examples. So why I'm bringing this up is because my brain is sending out the new filaments to like new pathways of something that's like, oh, because I'm starting to notice when it comes to, I'm starting to notice that we are the few, that we are not the many. The many is the psychosis driven, the delusional, the not rooted in reality was the major definition of psychosis. Not rooted in reality. Now, what does that mean though? Because some people could say, oh no, I'm rooted in reality. I see what's going on. I watch the news. That's not reality. That is once again another creation of a reality based off of someone else's personal truth. What is real? What is consistent? What is always present? Evolution, self-mastery, law of attraction, higher power. Those are the things that existed before our government and will exist after our government. Wisdom, for instance, was around way before human beings and the earth of creation. Wisdom has been here. These are the things that are real. Everything else is just a movie that you're creating based off of your emotional responses to self and subtle energy of environment. So is that reality or is that your reality? And if all of your chakras, if your individual energy centers are off kilter and out of balance and blocked, then you are not living in reality. You are living based off of the narrative of lack of energy flow. These systems are not operating in totality, in functionality, and so you're creating a reality based off of low self-esteem, low self-worth. That's just the solar plexus, but there's also... So here we go. Here's your block chakras. Diagram. Okay. We'll start with number 1, which is your root. Poor body image, feeling stuck, financial issues, disconnected, insecure of self. Number 2, sacral, low libido, isolation, lack of creative. These are signs of blocked energy, by the way. Low libido, isolation, lack of creativity, fear, anxiety, toxic relationships. Number 3, solar plexus, feeling powerless, indecisive, poor digestion, aggressive, competitive. Number 4, heart, loneliness, hard to empathize, guarded heart, holding a grudge, shyness. Number 5, throat, timid, talk first, think later, dishonesty, trouble communicating, can't speak up. Number 6, third eye, uncertainty, lack of purpose, narrow-mindedness, feeling lost in life, disconnect from intuition. Number 7, disassociation, which is our crown chakra, disassociation, no spiritual side, aimless, too individualistic, disconnected from earth. What story, if I were to give you all these words and you were to then write me a story incorporating all of these words, what would that story look like? What would it sound like? It would sound like a shit ton of despair. None of these, that would be a story of desperation. Now, look at the other end. These are chakras, their powers, truth to uphold, and associated elements. Number 1, root, family and social belonging, safety and security. All is one. Sacral, creativity, and earth is the element for root chakra. Number 2, sacral, creativity, sexuality, power, control, boundaries, relationships, honor one another, water. Solar plexus, number 3, personality, self-esteem, gut instinct, willpower, confidence, honor self, fire. Heart, Love, forgiveness, compassion. Love is divine power. Air. Throat, self-expression, choice, will, follow your dream, faith, trusting life, surrender to divine will, ether. Number 6, third eye, intellect, brain, open-mindedness, divine reason, bigger picture, trust. Seek only divine truth. And light and dark, because your circadian rhythm, your pineal gland is there. Okay, crown. Spirituality, knowing who you are, letting go, enlightenment, awareness, live in the present moment, time and space. These are truth. These are truths to uphold. Write me a story with all of these words, and it comes out hella empowering. It's a beautiful story. It's not wrapped up in the frivolous of every day. It is connected to seeking only divine truth, surrendering to divine will, living in the present moment. Love is divine power, honoring yourself, honoring one another. All is one. Versus toxic, insecure, aggressive, competitive, lonely, guarded, dishonest, uncertainty, disassociation. If you have any of this, you are not living in reality. You are living in a reality created off of these words. And that's not reality. That's a reality. It's a choice. It is definitely a decision to be made, to have. So that's what my brain gears started getting rolling with when I had that dream. And I'm starting to realize that the majority of our society is psychotic. Well, has psychosis. Because psychotic's a little rough. But I don't want to label. Labeling's hard. But lack of connection rooted to reality. Because you're creating realities based off of an unmastered self. So that reality is going to mimic what you have yet to master. Now, if you master that and you're rooted in reality, if you're rooted in reality, you recognize the divine. The bigger picture was the word used. The bigger picture. In turn, you do not squabble. You do not emotionally process at people. You do not argue. You do not, none of this. Because none of it's necessary. And the only time I find myself having an argument these days, which is totally not even an argument, is when I'm going through a mental health moment and a lot's coming up for processing and healing, and I'm basically transported into my past but in the present, and this doesn't happen often, but I tend to project in that moment, and that's why I usually stay alone, but now I share my space with my partner, and sometimes it comes out looking like an argument with him. But he even recognizes now this is not an argument between him and I. It's an argument between me and myself and my past and the people from my past. But when I'm in an emotional, in a mental health moment like that, a challenge like that, where it's really hard to decipher and it's hard to see where all these emotions and this suppressed emotions coming from, I just have to get it out. And then once it's out and I'm crying everywhere and I yelled it into the kitchen and whatever, I recognize that this was coming from a place of unhealed and a place of suppression. So there really isn't any arguments anymore. Do we have differences that we must compromise and find compromise on? Yeah, but it doesn't look like arguing. I don't argue with my friends. I don't argue with my family. I don't argue with anyone. Because if you want to argue with me, I'm going to walk away. I don't have time for that. I'm seeing the bigger picture. I am seeing the divine in everything. And if we squabble over an earthly crap, that is going against my truth or these truths, these universal truths. And I'm starting to see that the more I choose that road, the more I recognize how many people aren't living like that. How many people really still believe that it's their job to condescend another person or make them feel bad about themselves because they have an icky emotion. And that's just one example, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm realizing, and it's like, and I used to attach myself to these people, right? Make new friends, new whatever. And I'm like, noticing it now, like, first of all, don't attach to anything and anyone, but, the people that come into your life that you then consider family, that's your family unit. That's your tribe. They also would share the same values as you in the terms of not arguing about dumb stuff, not letting passive aggressiveness get into their tonality, not speaking down to me, condescending me, or making me self-doubt myself. Because if you truly love, if you truly unconditionally love, then you would go out of your way to try and find a way to communicate with this person in a way where both you and them walk away satisfied. If you're not seeking that kind of communication technique, then you don't live in love. You just don't. I'm noticing this more and more because I used to be a creature of anger. I used to be the person we're talking about. If you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you back. And now I'm seeing the difference here. That's low level. That's like, not only is it low vibrational, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a waste. It's just, it doesn't matter. And I would say, oh yeah, I love people, but you don't even love yourself enough to sit down and process the emotions you're feeling to then devise an effective communication technique with this person. And then that's when everything was like, recognized that no, you are not living in unconditional love if you have conditions for people. Now we have conversations like this. There was a day my friend let a little passive aggressive thing slip at me, right? And I thought about it afterwards, and I was like, yeah, that did make me feel really uncomfortable. But really though, did she even recognize her own voice? Because this is somebody who says they love me. So I'm going to go into it innocent until proven guilty. And I'm going to ask her, what's going on? Are you okay? Is everything all right? And then it opens up, no, I'm this or that, or I'm feeling this way and it's affecting me in this way. Like, that is the bigger picture. That is the divine. And yeah, it took me a week not even a full week, but a handful of days to approach that conversation. Because she wasn't ready. I could still feel her unsettlement. And I wasn't ready because I was still just taken aback. You sit with it. What's your rush? Or is it the fact you don't want to sit in your uncomfortable feelings and understand them? See, I have no problem doing that because if I do, they go away. If I attack and embody that emotion and there's no message learned there. There's no message to be had. And instead, it's just a reaction of emotion and nothing gets fixed. Yet, maybe you feel better because you projected your emotions so you feel validated and heard. But that's selfish. Selfish as shit, man. Don't project on people. Have a conversation with somebody who's not associated to the situation and be like, yo, man, yeah, wasn't that a little weird? That was weird. All right. It wasn't just me. Let me think about it. Let me get my validation, though, here. And then approach with love and effective communication. Effective communication is when both the sender and the receiver walk away satisfied. So if you're not doing that within every single one of your connections with people, then don't have them as your connections. Maybe you got too many connections. Like, I'm very happy that my group of friends can fit in the palm of my hand, because I don't have more time to also handle 1,000 other people. These are my chosen people. They chose me and I chose them. So I'm going to focus my energy in being effective with them, with my communication, being loving unconditionally, being open, trustworthy, healing together, expressing vulnerabilities, asking for help, because that's the bigger picture. I'm not going to hark on anyone. Like, do you see the difference? I feel like it's known but not known. It's visible but invisible. Like, we know this about people, yet we still placate. And we still want that connection. And maybe that means there's an unhealed wound inside of us, or a black chakra inside of us that we need to work on. Because in all reality, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. There's billions of people on this planet. There's millions of people just in America alone. And we have technology. I have a friend in Britain now. We didn't meet first and then, become long distance. I met her online. Like, you can do these things. You can... I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, right. There's just people. And you know what? They're just people. And we're all adults at this point. So, like, who do you think you're going to save them? Or change them? No, I've come to a personal realization that people don't want change unless they want change. And saying you want change doesn't mean shit versus actually taking small actions towards change. So we have to start seeing that differently when we encounter people, because the less you give your power away to people living unrooted into reality, the more power you have for yourself and your personal creation of your reality. And we need that energy. We need alignment, clarity. We need these things. And because how are you going to create your reality if you've got a bunch of voices in your head that don't matter? So you got to get rid of them. Because I think also there's a handful of people in the world that think like, but I can handle it. And they're going through a lot. So like, okay, how long are they going to be going through a lot? And you will eventually not be able to handle that. Like, and here's another sign too. If you like are around people and then like for 3, 4, 5 days, like just randomly, you're like, ew, why do I feel like frustrated and like brain fog and like confused and irritable? It's because they're draining your power. It's not just a human condition to like feel like shit out of nowhere unless there's something wrong. There can be something wrong energetically. It's majoritively energetically, because even when you get sick, that's energetic, man. And yeah, dis-ease, home dogs. You could get that by just having a conversation with somebody you don't really actually feel like talking to. So why do we do it? I think, and that's why I always come back to saying that having mental health challenges is a blessing for me personally, because I don't have the capacity to do it. I don't. So if you drain me, you're immediately gone. Because like I need all the energy I can get to master myself. And I think that's why God gives us vulnerabilities. Because then we can recognize, all right, I got to choose here. I either have to give myself 100% or keep giving everyone else 100%. You got a choice. You can't do both. Now, if somebody's not pouring back into your cup equally, right, because you can't just be depleted. If you give, you need to receive so that you can self-master. So yeah, you can personally, I can only have people in my life that pour back into me. And that's why I don't have a lot of people in my life. I am acquaintances with tons of people. That's God's will. That's a thing, you know. You must be kind to your neighbor. You know, I always try to make people smile because I believe that's a divine purpose there. But I'm not inviting you into my house. I'm not telling you my life story. You know, that's boundaries. That's a semi-permeable membrane. We're still communicating. We're still connecting. We're still exchanging energy, but to an extent, right? And I am scared when people rave about how many people they are friends with. You're allowed to know as many people as you want. You can have a shit ton of supporters too, but that doesn't mean they're your friends. I only let people close enough to me into that space if I know for a fact they're going to pour back into me. And that comes through very much trial and error, man. And, you know, reserve and self-discipline. And I feel symbiotic energy exchange when two organisms share space, a mutual understanding of give and take. Like the ant that eats the leaves, but hold on, that's a bad example. Right, the ant eats the leaves, the anteater eats the ant. Full circle of life. It only makes sense. Now, what's the opposition to that? Parasites. Parasites latch and drain. They don't give back. Would you ever see a leech bring in a gift basket before it sucks you dry? No. But humans have that tendency, and now we have things like love bombings. You have to watch out for that shit. But that's why I said in Dream, psychosis is a hard red flag to spot. Because it is. Because we don't know the masks that people provide themselves. We don't know the lies that people gaslight themselves out of. We don't know what's going on in their internal world. And yet, we allow them to fluctuate our energy, our emotions, or drain through us connecting through a cord of established communication. Isn't that nuts? Like, if someone's like this, screaming at you on the side of the road, it doesn't do shit. But if you go like this, and you make an established connection, and you're like, hey, buddy, don't be doing that. Boom, you already did it. You already, That person now has your power. Cool. Why are we engaging with everything that's reacting us? You don't need to. It's self-mastery. It's like, you know, if I put 1,000 things in front of you, you don't have to be playing with all of them at once. You can just do one thing at a time. And we don't need to engage with everything. The observer is not separate from what's being observed. Remember that. So when you start to observe something and create a connection, you are now one with the observation. It's in you. It has a potential to alter you just as much as you have a potential to alter it, and that's even before communication has begun. You don't have to be disrespectful to people. No. Rooted in reality. And what is reality? Bigger picture. Bigger picture. Self-mastery, divine power, and people run amok with no mastery skills. They feel an emotion, they embody it, and they just text paragraphs. Or they feel an emotion, they embody it, and now they're yelling at somebody on the street. Or like when I offended that dude for having a freaking lock on my wheel in my car. Dude, whatever, bro. I'm not going to establish a connection with that. You want to tell me how offended you are because this is the safest fucking town in the world, apparently? I don't give a shit, dude. You know how many towns I've lived in that I thought were safe and they really weren't? Like, but I don't need that. I don't need to explain that to that man because it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my reality at all. My reality is still real. My reality is I accidentally lived in the ghetto once. I'm not gonna... We're good. Like, I know the horrors. I know what can happen. So why not take precaution? I don't need to explain that to him. I don't need to be like, yeah, but meow, 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 meow. Waste, gone, energy drained, boom, you're out of power. That is not a symbiotic energy exchange. Only connect when it's symbiotic. And that's why if I'm having a real bad day, and let's say all my friends are at work, I go to a place where I spend money. Like buying a coffee or going to a diner or something like that. I'm paying for kind service. That's a symbiotic exchange. And typically when I'm in those scenarios, I feel very connected and fulfilled being able to have that experience, knowing that it's symbiotic. I'm paying you for this coffee. You're giving it to me, and majority of the time, you sense it on people, but the majority of the time, people don't mind chatting with you for a bit, and make sure to leave a tip. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mind doing that. It secures my energy preservation. And yes, do I have a hard time asking for help? Of course. Because at one point in my life, people were unsafe as shit. So I have to learn to trust the people within my small group and reach out and ask for help when I need it. I don't always need to make sure that I am paying for it or doing I don't have to like bake cookies because we're together. We're a family now. So that return will happen pretty soon. Probably the next time we hang out, because those are the people I repetitively am around. So when I give, they give, because that's how it is. Because you're focusing on this smaller group of people, not on 1,000 different moving parts. So you understand, we all have the similar values. We have similar morals. We all have effective communication skills. We all respect and love each other unconditionally. That's the bigger picture. That's the bigger picture. And there's not a lot of people on that train. A lot of people still using people for their own gains, or for their own cover-ups of insecurity, or their own cover-ups of whatever, of their wounds, of their blocked chakras, of their energy systems failing. And it's sad. It is. And the only way out is in. You gotta master yourself, home dogs. I really gotta publish this binder so I can give it to people. Read this shit because it's life-changing. It's transformative. Bigger picture, guys. Don't sweat the small stuff. You're allowed to have emotions. You are. Don't embody them. Don't make a mess that you have to just clean up. I don't know who else. I don't know. Does everyone... I don't have time for that. I've got mental health to worry about. Not worry about, but I have mental health that I got to stay on top of. I've got self-mastery skill. I'm already trying to push myself to a new level of heightened being. And you want to argue and squabble? I honestly don't even understand. That's when that psychosis definition, you're speaking incoherent to me, because literally all that matters to me is becoming better than I was yesterday. So I can't. Psychosis is a real hard red flag to spot. I think that's putting things into a big perspective for a lot of people right now. It's not just me having these thoughts. The Shaman Resonance is showing us a lot about interpersonal connections right now. And it's okay to be alone. It's okay to only have like 2 people or 3, 4 people that you really like trust and rely on. Like, that's fine. You know, it's okay to take breaks from family members. It's okay to just don't fall into that low vibrational stuff. Sit with yourself. Ask yourself why you're feeling icky, and then move proactively, you know? Like, I won't even be associated with somebody if I find out that the way they speak to themselves or speak to others or speak about others, especially behind their back, like, I'm not going to associate myself with you if that's how if you're speaking negatively like that. Because that association, like I always say on these videos, if you hang out with a dog with fleas, you're the next person to get fleas. So it doesn't even matter if it's a great opportunity, if it's a potential blah, blah, blah. It's not a great opportunity. It's not a potential whatever. Because if it comes laced with fleas and bed bugs, get out now. And trust me, this is going to make you the villain in a lot of people's stories. Who cares? You're not a villain. You're not. You're just trying to do the best you can with this life. And we're not given an infinite amount of time to do it. So, all right, on that note, think about it. Think about if you're creating with those words, those negatives or those positives. And also think about the people around you. And are they pushing for the same type of self-mastery that you are? Or do they keep trying to just drag you back to a place of stagnancy and repetition and cycles of behavior of that you've grown past? Because that's another thing. If you keep growing and people don't, they're going to want you back here. And we're not doing that. Just think about it. Meditate on it. All right. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.